What's up, everyone? All right, so in today's episode, I'm going to break down all of my trades from the morning. Today, I actually kept it a little simple. I only traded 4 different stocks. I think yesterday I traded like 7 or maybe 8 stocks. If you watched my recap yesterday, you know that on my first set of trades, the first stock I was trading, I went red $24,000. Now, I had set my daily max loss at minus 25,000, so I went right up to the max loss. And then I was able to start chipping away until I finally closed the gap, got myself green on the day, and actually ended up hitting my daily goal, which is $20,000. I finished yesterday at about 33,000. But I had to trade kind of everything that was moving and just small little trades. I got a couple big moves, but it was a really tough day. So today I came in with a little bit of a different mentality. I was like, yesterday was a close call. Let's pump the brakes, take it easy. So to be up over $156,000, how did this even happen? Well, it came together in a large part thanks to BTCM. This is the stock that was our leading gainer for most of the day, up over 200%. And it really made a big move starting at about 6:30 in the morning and just kept cranking higher and higher until it peaked at about 7:15. So that was sort of the first move, and it was very early. But as many of you guys know, I'm on my traveling trading station right now. So here it is. I've got the laptop, I've got my 2 USB monitors, I've got my microphone for the nice audio for you guys, and oops, almost knocked it over. And so because I'm in Spain, I'm on, a different time zone. So the market opening for you guys at 9:30 in the morning is 3:30 in the afternoon for me. So 6:30 this morning was 12:30. I had already gotten everything set up. I was ready to start trading. So we'll jump on the screen share and start breaking it down. So BTCM, this actually is the leading gainer right now. It's got 85 million shares of volume. And as you can see, it popped up here initially pretty early this morning. I'm going to move my mic over to this side. So it popped up here pretty early this morning. It then pulled back and then rallied way back up here. Now, to be honest, initially, I sort of had low expectations for it for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a stock that we have traded in the past, but it hasn't really been a big mover. Interestingly, BTCT has been much cleaner, but BTCM sort of was trailing behind, BTCM, there we go, was sort of trailing behind. But today, they did come out with a news headline, and that news headline came out early, and then the stock started to squeeze. But you know what else was interesting about it is that this is a stock that was easy to borrow. So that means if you wanted to short it, you didn't have to pay any locating fees. And so when it first popped up, it has this nice pop up, but then it pretty quickly rolls over, as you could see right here. So it peaks, rolls over, and then you get this nasty kind of false breakout right there, and it sells off a bit more. And then it's kind of right here that you get an inverted head and shoulders pattern. I would say that's an inverted head and shoulders pattern. Comes back up to a double top right here, and then suddenly starts to pull away. And it's funny because I was like, this is the type of stock that is going to be a grinder. I really don't know if I'm going to be able to make much money on it. But this is how I broke the ice. So as always, looking for that icebreaker trade, and I took my first position at about 6:57 this morning. That was just 3 minutes before 7 a.m. And I got in at $7.23. So that was right around here. And we ended up peaking just sort of a moment later at 7:45 and then dipping back down. Guess what? On my first trade, I went red $600. And I was like, all right, that's a little annoying, but okay, that's fine. So I went red 600, and then I went red a little bit more to minus 1,300. So I kind of didn't get off to a really great start. However, it came back up, and I got back in, and I guess we could pull up the chart again. Well, let's pull up the 10-second chart so we can get really dialed in. And I got back in, and on my next trade, I made $2,000. So I went from red to green. I wasn't green by a lot, but I went from red to green. So let's see. So first trade was right here. And the thing is, I got in as it was, I thought this was just sort of like starting to go parabolic and we were just going to squeeze up to like $8. So that was my first trade, which was a loss. And then it came back up here. I got back in and I got a winner. So there we got that move up to 8, but then we double topped here at $8 and reversed back down. So we end up selling off, dipping down, and then we curled back up, and I really nailed this trade here. So as it started to curl back up, I started asking myself, what is the point of kind of like no return on this? Where if it breaks over, what level does it have to break for us to go through the high a day? And I kind of said to myself, no, I don't think it's 750. I think if it breaks 750, we might go to like 755 and then flush back to 735. 760? No, I don't know. But then I thought if it breaks 775, that's kind of, I felt like that was a tipping point because then all of a sudden we're going to see 85, 95, and then I think it's going to go right through 8. And so as it started to curl back up, I was sort of watching that level. I was thinking about 775. And all of a sudden it pops up right here. And I'm like, okay, so I added and I got filled with an average of 787. So I got a little bit of slippage, about 12 cents of slippage on my entry, which is tolerable. I mean, it's, I prefer maybe no slippage, but it's okay. I got a little slippage. And then this thing goes from, I was in at 787. It goes straight up to 850. It dips down. And because all of a sudden in an instant, I was up 60 cents a share, I was like, here we go. It's game time. And I'm not thinking about, taking a little bit of profit. What I'm thinking about is adding. So it ends up curling up and I end up adding for that squeeze. And all of a sudden we get this sort of monster move and it goes straight up to about $10 a share right here. So then we get the first 1 minute pullback. And right here, it goes up to 11. And so I traded that as well. So right in that stretch, I locked up some really nice profit on the stock. And then it ends up dipping down, pulling back a little bit. And we had this high a day, which was $11.20. So as it started to pull back, I was asking myself, and this is my P&L for the day. So $79,000 on BTCM. So as it pulled back, I started asking myself, okay, are we going to get a 5-minute setup on this? Because the 5-minute chart was pretty extended. We had, 2, 4, 6, 8 green candles in a row, and then it starts dipping down. So I was like, I don't know, if this is going to work because it was so extended, but I started watching the 5-minute chart. And I'm watching the 5-minute chart, but it doesn't really give us a good setup. And then all of a sudden, this other stock pops up on the scanner, ARI. And AIRI. So this stock pops up on the scanner, and on this one, on my first trade on it, I got in it at $5.25, and I ended up stopping out of it at about $5.32, $5.22. It sort of dipped back down, so it didn't end up being a very good trade, and that was at about $7.23. So $7.23, I got in right here for this kind of like what I thought was going to be a squeeze through the highs. But then it dipped down, comes back up again. I got in, tried it again, and it just did not want to work. I made $400 on it. Green is good, but it's nothing really that exciting. But that's okay because it's about breaking the ice. And now BTCM, I broke the ice, was red, but then rallied back to green, and then it kept going. This one broke the ice, and it just didn't keep going, and so that was it. It could have been a small loss, ended up being a small winner. And then we had SAFX. SAFX popped up on my scanner, and this one threw me off a little bit because the float is higher, and the catalyst is in the renewable energy space, which I didn't really think of as being particularly strong. And you could definitely see it traded like a grinder. So I ended up taking my first trade on this one at about 8 a.m. So the way I traded this, I was a little before 8 actually. So it was like 7:55 here. So I got in this as it was squeezing right here at 278 and 283 for the break of 3. It ends up going up to 3 and I get some profit. It dips back down. I added on the dip. I stopped out of that for a 2-cent loss, but I made $3,000. Now, as it came back up, I considered trading it right here and then it rejected. I considered it here and it rejected. And I was like, you know what? I don't think I can trust it. And it went without me. So didn't really feel bad. Just didn't feel like I could trust it. And so let it go. And then at 8:22, KWM is on the scanners. And this one hits the scanners with a catalyst headline that it secures $1 billion of capital capacity to drive Bitcoin Treasury strategy. So I'm like, okay, this is the headline that's been giving us big moves, BMNR, so many others. So I'm like, all right, this seems pretty good to me. So it initially pops up right here, as you can see, from $5.70 up to about $8. Then it dips down right here, and it was on this dip that I punched it. So on this dip right here, I take the micro pullback. So it's a micro pullback entry, and then we squeeze right here all the way from a low of $7.75 all the way up to $11 and nearly 50 cents. We dip down again, and we push up to 12. We dip down again, we push up to 13, and right here, I gave back about $4,000 off the top. That red candle where it flushed from 13 back to 11 was pretty nasty. There was a big seller that all of a sudden came out and pushed the price right down. When it popped up, the seller was back, and then that seller just kept dumping shares. So unfortunately, this ended up rolling over. And at that point, I felt sort of concerned. I was like, okay, this just did a round trip. It went up 200%, whatever it was, and then came all the way back down. So then we had another stock that hits the scanner, PRTG. No, it wasn't that. Which was, I'll have to scroll back here. So we had a couple other stocks that hit the scanners, and we had a couple other round trips. And so at that point, I was like, all right, you know what? Let's hit the brakes. I'm worried here. I don't know if we're going to get more clean action. And so my last trade was actually at about 8:30 this morning on KWM. And I didn't take any more trades beyond that. Although SAFX did push higher, I didn't trade that. Oh, NTHI, this one popped up, and I was like, see, I don't know, I'm not sure. Didn't trade that, and I'm glad I didn't. So, unfortunately, we had some really good momentum, and then things cooled off. And so coming into the opening bell, I didn't feel like anything was particularly obvious, and so I didn't take any trades, going into the open. And then next thing you know, I'm like, all right, well, it's just about 4 o'clock here in Spain. I think I'm going to lock it up. It's a green day. I'm grateful for that. $156,000. This puts me up over $400,000 on the week. I am now at 55% of the way towards my $1 million goal for July. I'm at $545,000. So, $545,000, and we still have 3 weeks left in the month. A solid 3 weeks. So tomorrow morning, I'll be back at it bright and early, 7 a.m., live streaming, giving you guys my watch list, walking you through the trades that I take. And while I'm trading, you'll see my P&L right here in the top window. So you can see very clearly if I'm in or out or what I'm doing, how much I'm up, how much I'm down. So for those of you guys who haven't already checked out a 2-week trial, the 2-week trials at Warrior Trading are $20. And during that trial, not only do you get access to our chat room and my live audio video broadcast, you also get access to a selection of classes that will help you better understand the strategy that I trade every day. And you'll get access to this software right here. So right in this browser, you'll have access to the scanners, the charts, the news feed. And so you can rearrange it. You can create your layout however you want. There's a whole bunch of other widgets that you can use. You can create pop-outs. You can save it and then use that as much as you want over the next 2 weeks. So 2 weeks, $20. I'd encourage you to give it a shot, see what you think. And for those of you guys who have been tuning in for a long time or who are already members, leave some feedback in the comments. Let people know what it's like being a part of the community. So thank you guys as always for tuning in. And let me remind you, trading is risky. My results are not typical. I've been doing this for a long time. I had a really nice talk today about my kind of evolution in my trading, and how I've gotten kind of to this level. And I'll do an episode on that in the future. But as always, I want to encourage you guys to practice in a simulator before putting real money on the line. So take it slow. The market's going to be here for you. All right, so with that, I'll see you guys back at it bright and early tomorrow morning.